Malin Hedenborg-White, and who's a graduate student at the University of Uppsala here in Sweden. And we're going to talk today a bit about Wicca and related matters. For people who don't know, what is Wicca?
Wicca is a religion. It's a sort of duotheistic mystery religion, which falls as under the umbrella term what we call paganism,
Right.
Or neo-paganism. So Wicca originated in the mid-1900s. In the 50s, a man called Gerald Gardner, a British civil servant, published a couple of books which were allegedly based on what he had learned from a witches' coven operating in the New Forest area, and he claimed to have been initiated into their religion, which he claimed was a sort of fertility religion surviving from pre-Christian times and surviving the spread of Christianity. So he said he was initiated by a woman named Old Dorothy, and that he came into their coven and practiced witchcraft with them. So in the 50s, he published books detailing what he claimed to have learned from these people. So
it's a kind of new religious movement in many ways, but in a sense it claims to have these very ancient roots and to come from a pre-Christian Jerusalem to survive. That's quite a substantial kind of claim to make for them.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. And it's been quite controversial because most serious scholars today all agree that Gardner actually made it up, really.
Yes.
Really, which doesn't at all detract from the value of it as a religion, but it's been, his claims about those sort of ancient roots have been widely discredited. He was very much drawing on sort of the Romantic movement in literature and poetry and that sort of thing, and this whole kind of reaction against the Enlightenment and romanticization of nature and idealization of Greek paganism and that sort of whole looking back kind of.
So, and then in the fact that the ancient roots have been largely kind of discredited, also that it didn't kind of happen like that, current practitioners of Wicca, they'd be more interested in practicing the connection with nature and the kind of fertility rites than they would be in claiming some authentic link with an unbroken tradition that, appeals to ancient days of pre-Christian Britain. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely this whole sort of idea of reconnecting with nature, which is, of course, a very modern sort of idea. There's no point connecting with nature if you're already in it. But that's tremendously important in Wicca. One of the most important things is the celebration of the 8th seasonal Sabbath.
Right.
The sort of ritual year, which Wiccans sort of get together and do to celebrate the changing of the seasons and nature and what happens, and also the lunar cycles and that kind of thing. So nature is really sort of central to Wiccan practice.
Wiccans are very interested in nature.
Yeah.
But do they kind of postulate a kind of theistic deity that's separate from that? Or is it kind of a form of pantheism where it's all divinity is bound up with nature in a way that's not really transcendent or distinguishable?
Definitely the second one. Wiccans don't really subscribe to this idea of a deity that's omnipotent and sort of separate from the material universe, but most have a kind of pantheistic or panentheistic idea of divinity as sort of manifesting in the natural world, and that, they have... Traditionally, Wiccans revere the divine in the shape of a god, the horned god, and the great goddess. So there's this whole idea that these deities can very much be experienced in the natural world and like from a personal point of view.
So they're kind of part of the natural world, but as you said, panentheist, kind of exceed it or kind of rise above it somewhat.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people think.
As well. And you talked about the English roots of Wicca. How much have we seen it spread in places like kind of Europe or the US and things? Is it kind of more global now? It's
very, it's become very globalized. In the 60s, Wicca spread to the United States, which was really sort of important to its wider development because what was happening in the United States at that time was, of course, the second wave of feminism and the whole sexual revolution and that sort of thing. So when Wicca spread there through the writings of Gerald Gardner, for example, it fused with the sort of women's spirituality movement and radical feminist ideas and created a sort of particular American brand of witchcraft that is sort of more political and less hierarchical, you could say.
Right.
And then that sort of version of Wicca or witchcraft has sort of spread back to England and very much influenced British Wicca and also across the world. It's
Well, you can see from the way you describe it how potent that would be given the kind of historical period.
Definitely,
It
definitely.
really kind of catches the wave of a lot of things that are going on at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, it's a really good insight, I think, into what at least Wicca is.